It's time for Twig This Week in Google. Wow, we have an international panel this week. Kevin Marks from the UK, Jeff Jarvis, he's in Berlin, and all the way from Tbilisi, Georgia, Mike Elgin talks with us about all the biggest news, the debate over Kaspersky antivirus. Is it dangerous? Should you worry? Are they at fault? We'll talk about the relative IQs of all the voice assistants. You won't believe who's the smartest and how dumb it turns out to be. And why you should probably not Google how to rob a bank. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twig.
Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 426, recorded Wednesday, October 11th, 2017. Vulnerable to journalism. This Week in Google is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your home. Go to ring.com/twig and get up to $150 off a Ring of Security kit. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully so you can be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/twig. It's time for Twig This Week in Google, a show where we cover the latest news from the Googleverse. Kevin Marks is going to join us in a few minutes, but right now, this is going to be a truly international show. Joining us from Berlin, Jeff Jarvis. He's there. What are you there for, Jeff?
Good night. The one IFRA, which is the World Association of Newspapers a conference. I'm just yammering at them.
You love going to Germany, though. This is like your favorite place to go.
I actually like it, yeah. Berlin, I like quite a bit. I feel very comfortable here, oddly.
And you were saying you had a little free time this afternoon, so you went to the Stasi Museum.
Yeah.
The East German secret police.
Yeah, and all this talk we have that as if the advertising world is a surveillance state, it just so trivializes what a real surveillance state was.
Yeah, when you really get into it. What was the movie? There was a very good movie about the Stasi.
The Lives of Others.
Lives of Others.
Very good movie.
Chilling.
Yeah.
Also joining us, Mike Elgin. And, you know, it's always a fun game to play with Mike Elgin. Where the hell is he? But this one, the only reason I know where you are, Mike, is because I follow you so closely on Instagram. He's in Georgia. Oh, he's also muted.
Country.
Yeah, say that again. We muted you.
The country of Georgia. Yeah, the country of Georgia. It's a fantastic country, and I've been out of the United States for quite a while.
We just missed each other in France by minutes.
I saw you fly by on the highway there near the Côte de Rosé, and then we came out to Georgia. We've been living in Georgia for the last 2 weeks or so.
You're in Tbilisi.
Tbilisi, Georgia. Yeah, it's a fantastic city.
Mike? Where next?
It's a former Soviet Union country. Oh, you're going back to Italy? Oh, good.
Going back to Italy. We're putting together both the, you know about the Barcelona experience. We're putting together the Prosecco experience and then the Provence experience. We're doing 2 in a row this summer. Man. And it's going to be amazing. But we're going back to Italy to work on the Prosecco experience coming up.
Gastronomad.net if you want to find out what Mike and Amira do. You've already had your first in Barcelona, which looked, from the judging by the pictures
fantastic.
And the food, yeah, it looked really great.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
All right, Prosecco coming up.
Mike, a quick question. For all that travel, do you ever get eau de combat in the stomach because of the travel? Or are you so well?
Funny you should mention that. I had it a couple of days ago. There was a big street festival in Tbilisi, here in Tbilisi, where basically what the festival is people come from all the different regions of the country into the city. They set up booths, they barbecue pork and all this other stuff, and then they have just outdoor eating all day for 2 days. And, I felt a little bit, but it was totally worth it. I would do it again if I had a chance.
Yes, I think it's important to eat street food so you build up a resistance to all of that.
Normal street food, if you go to, Mexico City or something and have street food, it's probably going to be at least as safe as the restaurants, because when the street vendors are there all the time and they've been doing it for years and years, and it's usually good. Whenever it's a carnival type thing, people set up just once a year or something like that.
Oh, good point.
There's always, you don't know how they're transporting things.
Stay with the professionals. That's a good point.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. We've learned something today, I think.
We always do for always.
So last week we talked on and on about all the things Google had announced, and gosh knows there was plenty to talk about, but I don't even think we got through it all. So we have a big kind of Google news dump of a bunch of stuff that's been going on with Google. I'll start with Puerto Rico. As you know, a tragedy going on in Puerto Rico right now in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma. 3 weeks later, and there's still no power in 85% of the country. Cell service is down in those areas. Hospitals are suffering. People are dying. But Google was given permission by the FCC this week to deploy those big Project Loon balloons for emergency connectivity in the wake of Hurricane Irma, and now I guess Maria too. Emergency LTE coverage to the island. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of people are talking about this as if it's a done deal. Unfortunately, it isn't. They have permission from the FCC. Now they have to establish partnerships with the carriers in Puerto Rico.
There are 8 carriers. 8 carriers.
Yeah. And when they do get some sort of connectivity online with the carriers, then people have to actually install an update for their phones. So we're a ways away from this actually happening. The good news is they have plenty of paper towels, and that's about it.
In Puerto Rico. Yeah, I'm going to be in San Juan in a couple of months, and I don't know what I'm going to see there, and our heart goes out to people in Puerto Rico.
I was supposed to go there for a conference in November, and they moved it to Miami, and I just feel bad that the island is losing business.
Well, that's why I still want to go there. I was thinking of canceling. We were going on taking my son on a sailing trip in the Virgin Islands, which also needs support. And we fly to San Juan, we go to Tortola, and then he wanted to spend a week in San Juan afterwards. And at first I was going to say, well, I don't think there'll be any infrastructure, but as long as they'll let us, we'll go if we need to build things, whatever it is. So I think that's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. So what
about the electric infrastructure with Elon?
And that was the other thing. And now this one may be real pie in the sky, but isn't it funny how Puerto Rico's suffering, but the science fiction future is ready to come in. Elon Musk says, if you're going to rebuild the electric infrastructure, which apparently they have to do, you really ought to do it with solar and giant batteries. And he's talked to the governor, and there's apparently some interest. I don't know how far along it is, or whether I doubt Tesla has the money to do this on their own. But it will be great.
Puerto Rico has no money.
Yeah, well, but they have $77 million, I think, to rebuild the power infrastructure. At least that's a seed money from the federal government. So remember, Puerto Rico is America. Just remind everybody. Yeah. It is.
What is its official status? It's a territory.
It's a territory. Yeah.
Territory.
Yeah. So, but it's America. So just as the American Virgin Islands are in America. So. One would hope that the federal resources will go in there and they can get it rebuilt. But right now it's just in crisis.
I can't imagine. I mean, no power and still no rain water. I mean, no fresh water rather in all these places. How do you survive? I don't know. They need to get more people over there. Meanwhile, we have had a kind of close call up here in Northern California and I think a little bit of a better understanding of how. You could talk about federal aid, but ultimately you're kind of alone when this stuff happens. And technology is not a savior. So we have these big fires about 10 miles away in the wine country. I know Mike's very familiar with the areas that are burning, some of our favorite wineries too. But a couple of things. First of all, during the first few days of the crisis, it was very hard to get any information at all. You just really didn't know what was going on or where the fires were. In fact, one of the reasons I think so many people died, and I think many more are going to be discovered dead, is because it happened so quickly and there was very little communication infrastructure. We've started to rely on cell phones for emergency alerts, and they weren't working. They went out right away.
There's no. Remember, there used to be when you were a kid. Did you have a whistle, a air raid siren?
Yeah.
The noon whistle.
Well, we never knew. Yeah, I wouldn't have known what you were supposed to do.
If you heard it at midnight, you might want to at least get up and go, "What's going on?" Well, that's the point. Is we've let this kind of old-fashioned infrastructure die, relying on technical infrastructure that went out immediately. Immediately.
Yeah. And they actually have some of that infrastructure still around. I'm not sure if it's connected. I noticed I was in Los Angeles about 8 months ago, and I saw this tower with a weird thing, and I'm like, what is that? I kind of looked it up, and it was an air raid siren. Right in the middle of a posh area of LA, and there it was, just this air raid siren.
They may be using that again now.
Well, they ought to, or ring the church bells or something, because what happened was it sprung up at midnight. People didn't know. Some people never woke up. Some people got out the skin of their teeth because they ran. I mean, they literally had to run to get away. It moves very fast. It isn't over here because tonight we're expecting high winds again and what they call red flag conditions, which are very high fire danger conditions, all in this Sonoma, Napa, and Mendocino and Sassoon counties. So it may not be over.
I saw a CBS report here from the BBC, and was this downtown Santa Rosa? I mean, it's just devastating.
Well, not downtown, but very nearby. There's an area a little north of Santa Rosa where interestingly the county courthouse, the county seat is, the county jail, and a bunch of beautiful homes. The Kaiser Hospital, many of the beautiful homes up in the Fountain Grove area burned. Golf course, Silverado Golf Course, the homes around that, but also many trailer parks, and it's devastation. If you look at it, I've never seen anything like it. It's a moonscape. These were such fast-moving, hot fires that everything just was flattened. And of course, we have employees who are up there waiting to hear if they're evacuated. We have many friends who have been evacuated. Some have lost their houses. There are shelters all around Petaluma that are set up and, for the most part, full at this point.
And Airbnb opened up the volunteer rooms for free.
I thought that was great. It is what is great is you don't see. I don't know where the firefighters are obviously very busy right now. They're trying to save lives, not property. So the fires are burning uncontained. But I don't see a lot of tanker planes. I think the big 747 tanker plane is supposedly here. But what you do see is the community. And another reminder that we think, the government will come and save us. It's the people on the ground. We went over the other day, yesterday, with blankets and pillows. They needed them at the shelter. And there were just a constant stream of people going in, bringing stuff to the point where they said, okay, no more. we got too much.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine, Leo, has a newish cafe called The Pharmacy in Santa Rosa. And it's an exquisite place. The food is amazing. But she's just giving away food and coffee. And she announced on Instagram, she's giving it away until it's gone.
A lot of the restaurants around here are doing that. Yep. It's so neat. That's where, you can talk about FEMA, you can talk about the National Guard, you can talk about, all of this, but ultimately the community steps up. And thank goodness it's not unlike Puerto Rico, which was the devastation was universal. Here, it's just it's small pockets. We're safe, by the way, in case anybody cares. The studio and the Petaluma area are currently not under threat.
One of the strange things about this that I haven't heard mentioned, and of course, obviously, the safety and the loss of life and property is the biggest thing. But this is the wine country. It's affecting the three major counties for wine production: Napa, Sonoma, and Mendocino. And this is going to affect wine for years. The wine will actually retain the tastes and stuff from the fire for several years.
Oh no!
And California, of course, is a huge exporter of wine. So this is, California wine is going to be different for a while.
Well, it's good news for Tbilisi.
Yeah.
The Georgians are happy. I didn't realize this, but you said this is where wine was invented.
You go downtown in downtown Tbilisi, Leo. There's literally at least one wine store on every block, and there's one block where there are 4 wine stores next to each other in a row. There's wine stores everywhere. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Google has acquired a company I liked a lot and used to listen to a lot. Liz Gaines was one of the people there. We've had her on the show. She worked for 60dB. It was a company founded a couple of years ago to rethink how radio works, and it was a great way to listen to some people. I mean, the Fast Company's calling it a podcast app. I'm not sure that's fair to it. It was much more than that, but Google bought the company and will be shutting down the service next month. It was founded by a radio reporter, Steve Henn, 2 Netflix veterans, John Ciancuti and Steve McClendon. All of them will be going to Google. Liz will be going to Google, but not the service anymore. And Fast Company says Google's purchase of 60dB seems to imply they're taking the whole podcasting thing a bit more seriously now.
Which is great.
Yeah, this was a surprise from the New York Times. I don't know if this is true. It said it's not true for us, but it's according to the New York Times, 65, I'm sorry, what was it? Not 65, 85? No, 65% of podcasts go through Apple's built-in iPhone app. That is not true for us. I think iTunes and iPhone podcast app are below 50%. But it's still a big chunk of it. And so it makes sense that Google might try to, muscle in on some of that business.
And it's kind of good that, I hate to, dance on the grave. It's not really a grave. They're being acquired. But this was an alternative to podcasting.
In a way, it was, yeah. You could listen to podcasts through it, but you're right. It was more like you would listen to this instead of podcasts, right?
Right, and we don't need podcasting forking into these different platforms. Yeah. I love to see everything being poured into the standards for podcasting so that you can get a podcatcher and you can listen to the podcast you want and keep it that way. So I think it's kind of a good thing. And I hope that Google getting serious about podcasting will also light a fire under Apple, because I think they don't take podcasting as seriously as they do music and other things. So hopefully we'll see a lot more effort being put into to podcasts, promoting podcasts. I personally think that radio and TV should just go away and it should all be replaced by podcasts. I think the world would be a better place.
I like that. Although then, as somebody pointed out in the chat room, one of the reasons these environmental crises are a problem is because nobody has TV anymore. They're not, and radio anymore. They're not getting the emergency action. What do they call it? EAS notifications anymore. So, yeah. I mean, again, all of these systems that we used to have. Remember? Do you remember? I guess this really betrays my age, but AM radios used to have a civil defense symbol on the band, on the dial on the AM radio. Am I imagining this? And that would be,
I think that sounds right. Yeah,
it's where you'd go if there were an atomic attack, a nuclear attack on the country. You'd dial to the civil defense frequency, and all the radios had these. Mike,
Leo, when was the last time you listened to radio?
Well, remember, I do a radio show.
I know that. So, I'm just curious.
Besides your own show.
Just in terms of saying in the car.
You know what? I'll tell you when I listen to radio. Now that you ask, you're right. I don't listen to a lot of radio. But I did during the fires. We tuned in the local news radio station. It was the only source of information. So there you go. That's one of the reasons you got to keep this stuff around.
You got to hope there's local reporters on the other end of the microphone.
Well, it's funny because we also have here KRON, Channel 4, which used to be an NBC affiliate, lost its NBC affiliation about 10 years ago. And so they've been really feisty trying to do local news. And they were the station to go to because they had reporters all over the area. And many of them were either very young. There was one reporter, I swear to God, she was 16. But they did a really good job, and it just showed you there are a lot of people. You teach these kids all the time. There are a lot of people who want to be journalists, and I hope there's still places for them to go. Conelrad, that's what it was called. Here's a Conelrad. Here's a car radio.
Oh my God!
I think it's from Mad Max's car there. But there's
Did somebody dig this out of a ditch or something? It's a relic.
A little rusty. It is a relic, but God, it's in my memory. See those red those triangles there? Those are the Conelrad frequencies that you go to in case we get attacked.
Well, again,
we might want to bring that back.
Yeah.
Jesus. Sigh. Let's see what else is. Oh, Google says us too. I love this. So Facebook and Twitter both came forward in congressional inquiry. Yes, the Russians bought ads. Here's the ads. Google, amazing, has discovered that Russian operatives spent tens of thousands of dollars on YouTube, Gmail, and Google search ads in an attempt to affect the 2016 election.
Google actually.
My favorite part of this.
I'm sorry, Russia actually. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, go ahead, Mike.
Here's the problem here, folks. Both of these guys are about 10 seconds behind. So Mike, then Jeff. Mike, then Jeff.
So the Russians actually hired people, YouTube personalities, to, I guess, spread its propaganda.
Those were the worst.
Yeah. I mean, and it was all about sowing divisions, social divisions within the United States. It wasn't about electing one candidate or another. In this case, it was about exacerbating existing racial tension within the U.S.
I would love to play for you some of this. These Blacktivist is one of the accounts. They had people pretending to be African Americans in the United States. They were clearly not. I think they've all been pulled down since, saying, "I hate Hillary Clinton. She's a bad person. I am voting for Trump." And it was so blatant. I don't think, in fact, most of them had very few views. But there were a number of these accounts purchased by the Russians. Now, go ahead, Jeff, because I think I know what you're going to say about the funniest thing about this story. Go ahead. That
Facebook found the accounts. Twitter didn't really do any work and got in trouble with Congress because they just went to the accounts that Facebook found. And then Google didn't really, didn't fully do it. They used Twitter to figure out where the accounts were.
Oh, that's hysterical. And my favorite, this is the one I was going to say is the fun one. And then Microsoft said, "Oh, we better check to see if they bought anything on Bing." So far, no.
Poor Microsoft.
Poor Microsoft. They can't even get the Russian influence dollars.
My other favorite story, I can't find it right now. A guy named Vasily Getov, who's speaking here, who's an expert in Russian stuff because he's Russian, had this great story that there was fake news in Russia of a Putin cheeseburger. That's supposedly a restaurant named Lucy's right near Penn Station, which I've eaten at, had in honor of Putin, in some reason, had this gigantic cheeseburger for Putin. And they called the restaurant, and somebody who supposedly worked there said, "Oh yes, we are honoring Putin with this cheeseburger."
Oh Lord!
And they went to great lengths to do it until finally a reporter from elsewhere called and said, "Do you have a Putin cheeseburger?" And they said, "What?
What are you talking about? Is Lucy's where you and Lisa and I and Gina Trapani went and we had delicious burgers? I think that was Lucy's.
No,
no,
place is not so. No,
it was around the corner.
Not so delicious.
Oh, okay, not so delicious. No. Okay. Why'd you take me to the not so delicious place?
No. Lucy's is not so delicious.
Lucy's is not so delicious. Okay.
I take you to only the best, Leo.
Thank you. It was a fine burger. I do remember it very well. A little word of warning: if you can't really trust what you see on the Chrome store. I think Google has fixed this, but about 37,000 Chrome users downloaded a fake AdBlock Plus extension. Google has taken it down. Swift on Security tweeted about it, the fabulous Taylor Swift account. But the fake, according to Swift on Security, the fake extension was created by a fraudulent developer who clones popular names and spams keywords. AdBlock Plus, very popular ad blocking extension. And I guess since the name was AdBlock Plus, I wouldn't be too surprised if people were fooled. According to one of the reviewers of the fake Chrome extension, he started getting invasive ads that opened lots of tabs after he installed it. Exactly the opposite of why you install AdBlock Plus, of course. Google has removed it, but the point is, I don't know how good their verification process is if something like that could sneak through. So, my new rule, I've been saying it a lot, don't install anything you don't absolutely want and need, and be careful when you do. It's when you install stuff on your system that you get in trouble. And that leads us to the Kaspersky story. Is Kevin still out there, or is he has not responded? All right. We may just forget Kevin. I mean, we have enough countries. We've got Georgia, We've got Germany. Do we really need England? It would be kind of fun. So
it'll always be there.
They'll always be in England. No, I think they'll always be at Paris. The sad story gets stranger and stranger. It started with a Wall Street Journal report last week that an NSA contractor had taken work home. By the way, that's a really big red flag. Taken his work home and put it on his home computer. He was running, according to the Journal, the Kaspersky antivirus program. And Kaspersky, intentionally or not, it's not clear, notified Russia that there were NSA secrets on this computer, and the Russians were able to then exfiltrate those NSA secrets. The question that remains is, what was Kaspersky's involvement in this? And you may remember that the Department of Homeland Security a few months ago said that no government agencies should be running Kaspersky. Kaspersky, you know Eugene Kaspersky. Jeff, you've been on a panel with him. He's a very likable fellow.
I've met him. I've run a panel with a very, very affable fellow, and apparently one would believe very frank about security.
Yeah. The Journal says that there's evidence that, in fact, Kaspersky was involved, but not concrete evidence. So, among
the
other
thing is that,
go ahead.
Yeah, they're saying that the saying could only have been made with the company's knowledge. This is one person quoted by
an unnamed official with knowledge of the information. Yeah,
right. But that phrase doesn't make any sense. Companies don't have knowledge. Individual employees have knowledge, and you don't know whether could this have been done with one insider, a few insiders. Could they have been bribed? Were they moles? Did Russia have them be hired? Was it a long-term thing, short-term thing? Were they hacked? Like just because it requires somebody on the inside doesn't mean that Kaspersky as a company or that their CEO and founder had any knowledge. It also is possible that they did. So I just at this point there's so many unknowns that it's impossible to really understand to what extent Kaspersky is a spy agent's wing of the
we do know a few things. We know that Kaspersky has written software for the FSB, the Russian secret police, that they have done contract work for the Russian government. Eugene Kaspersky says, but that's not. We also know that Putin exerts a lot of influence over Russian companies. We also know that antivirus software, just by its very nature, kind of opens vulnerabilities in a way in your system. You have to really trust your antivirus software because of the nature of the way it works and how deeply into the system it goes. It puts its hooks. And we've seen this happen. It could be, if it's poorly written, a venue for exploits to get into your system. An antivirus can actually make your system less secure. In fact, I don't recommend people use antiviruses. But at this point, I would very much not recommend anybody use Kaspersky, whether it's Kaspersky's fault or not. Interestingly, the German federal cyber agency, BSI, says there's no evidence that Kaspersky was used by Russian hackers. There are no plans to warn against the use of Kaspersky products in Germany, since the BSI has no evidence for misconduct by the company or weaknesses in its software. That seems like a dangerous thing to say. Yeah. The Israelis say, well, no, wait a minute. We hacked Kaspersky months ago, and we warned the U.S. that Kaspersky was responsible for exfiltrating this data. This is crazy.
Well, adding to the craziness is the and again we don't know anything about where this came from. Here's just, I don't believe this is true. I have no evidence. I haven't even heard this or read this, but just as a point of devil's advocacy, it's possible. Imagine if the NSA or another agency or Israel or somebody were able to infiltrate an American antivirus program that you wanted to be used in Russia. One way to get that to be used would be to compromise the Russian antivirus so that people, because Kaspersky's it's probably the leading antivirus globally, isn't it?
I think I read that there's, what was the number? It was a very large number of installed users.
Yeah. And you know, what was the brand of old, right? McAfee.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you were going to hack McAfee, don't hack Kaspersky. Don't hack the Russian company.
It was run by a guy who wasn't exactly as normal as Mr. Kaspersky.
For some reason, I want to say 400 million users. That can't possibly be right, but it is certainly very popular. It's the one Dvorak recommended for a decade.
400 million is the number, yeah.
It is 400 million.
Yep.
That's astounding.
I have one recommendation, people, and you know what it is.
What?
Chrome.
Oh, Chromebook. Chromebook. You don't need an
Chromebook.
antivirus. Well, I would submit you don't need an antivirus on any system anyway. This goes back to me saying don't install anything you don't absolutely have to have. And there's no evidence that an antivirus makes you more secure, and there's a lot of evidence that makes you less secure. So whatever the name. But certainly at this point, if I were using Kaspersky, I would uninstall it. The company says... Kaspersky Lab, should I do it in a Russian accent? No, I won't do that. That would be mean.
Yeah.
Kaspersky Lab was not involved in and does not possess any knowledge of the situation in question, and the company reiterates its willingness to work alongside U.S. authorities to address any concerns they may have about its products as well as its systems. On the other hand, the government of Israel said they alerted... in 2014, the U.S., the Kaspersky software was being used to find American intelligence information. This Israelis' own computer hackers penetrated Kaspersky Labs networks in 2014. So the Israelis were spying on the Kasperskys, and the Kasperskys were spying on us. Once inside, the Israelis discovered how the software is being used and how Russia had obtained classified information from the NSA. After the Israelis passed along what they knew to the U.S., officials at the NSA began an investigation that led to the contractor who had installed Kaspersky software on his personal computer at home. People familiar with that, this is the Wall Street Journal, people familiar with that investigation say he appeared to have no ill intent, but of course he knew that removing classified material from Fort Meade was a violation of agency rules and possibly a crime. So now we at least know why the DHS banned federal government agencies from using Kaspersky last month. Yeah. That's the information that they were working on. 22 government agencies were authorized to use Kaspersky. It's also, of course, widely used by consumers. Yeah, we may never know whether Kaspersky was knowing. That's what's not clear, whether they were a willing, knowing pawn or an unwitting pawn of the Russian government. But we do. I think from this, it seems pretty clear it was an avenue for getting into somebody's system.
How does Kaspersky recover from something like this? I mean, this is just, you can't have this kind of reputation in this business.
Well, especially since there are many competitors who are just as good, and there's no compelling reason to go with Kaspersky. If you want an antivirus, you know, there's nothing requiring you to use Kaspersky. I would not use an antivirus, but
yeah.
So this is Dan Gooden writing in Ars Technica. This is also a recent new report. Kaspersky reportedly modified its AV to help Russia steal NSA secrets. But I'm with you, Mike. We don't know for sure, but I also think it'd be foolish to use Kaspersky.
If we take this at face value, if the Putin government is using this to hack the NSA, and in the wake of revelations of all the ads and meddling with democracy and all this stuff, this has got to be generally backfiring for brand Russia, isn't it? I mean, wouldn't Russia prefer to be a trusted partner, to be I mean, it's like Russia is in like every story these days.
What do you think? What do you think? That's a good question, Jeff. What do you think? Some say that Putin loves all this attention because the truth is Russia's economy is smaller than Italy's. It isn't really a big nation, a big power. It's not one of the top powers anymore. It does have nuclear weapons. But that Putin likes the fact that people fear and respect Russia, that this is a good thing for Russia. What do you think?
So I read an interview with this guy, Vasily Gatov, who I'm speaking after tomorrow here in Berlin, and I had coffee with him this afternoon. Fascinating guy, former media executive in Russia, now a USC fellow, and the analysis he gave, I think, was critical, which was that Russia's been invaded often, never defeated, except the notion that it lost the Cold War, and that's what grates. That's what they can't stand, and that's why you have this authoritarian in Putin trying to beat his breast to have victories. And in an authoritarian government, it's not brand Russia, it's brand Putin, one way or the other.
Yeah, they want to be seen as a strong player, as a power. And here you are, Mike, in a country Russia invaded not so very long ago, because they've been invaded by everybody and their brother over the last 10 centuries. But Georgia was a Soviet republic. It's where Stalin came from. Yeah, it was
annexed. And,
annexed. That's a nice way to put it.
and there's no question that Putin yearns for the glory days of the Soviet Union, and the reach that they had, a global superpower, and at the center of things in terms of international affairs, and that's just part of his allure, that the idea that he's going to bring them back to that glory days. If they bring back the bread lines and the poverty and the famine and all that stuff as well, which people don't remember quite as well as the international heft, then maybe that idea wouldn't be so popular. But to a certain extent, the other, not this hack, but the other meddling in democracy with the ads and all that kind of stuff, that's a win-win, I think, for Russia, because on the one hand, maybe they'll screw with our democracy. Yes, maybe they'll, but even in being in that case, even when they're caught red-handed with their hands in the cookie jar, they can say, look, all these tech companies, Silicon Valley, they're not so great. We hacked them. We messed with them. We did all this stuff. And it's part of it is tarnishing the Western brand, if you will, the things that are alluring about the United States and Europe. Those take a big hit when Russia successfully is caught, meddling with our culture, with our democracy, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, let's extend it beyond Russia. North Korea, too, has a very active hacking cadre, a very effective hacking cadre. It's an easy way for a country that's small and doesn't have a lot of resources and can't foot a million-man army or, to
North Korea literally has a million-man army, but go on.
Well, and probably Russia does, too, and both may have nukes. But cyber warfare, 20 good hackers is all you need.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're a player.
It's a lot cheaper. It's a hell of a lot cheaper. And I've plugged this on the show before, but the NATO handbook on Russian information warfare is spectacular, and it makes clear that the goal is to get the country to turn on itself.
Yeah.
Polarization.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's simplistic to say they just wanted Trump to get elected. I think it's a longer game they're playing than that. Although there is evidence that there was not a lot of love lost between Putin and Clinton.
Yeah, the word that is making its way into the English language is desinformatia.
Yeah,
and there's actually a book on that topic and lots of really great articles I've mentioned in a couple of my columns. But this is the idea behind desinformatia is to the ultimate goal is to erode trust in information itself, to the point where people don't know what to believe, and everything is equivalent. Legitimate claims, false claims, they're all the same.
You know who might win from all of this? China.
Yeah.
I think it's already happening.
Yeah. As the West declines into chaos, and Russia acts like a mean teenager, China can stand above it all and say, well, go ahead, you guys fight it out. We're going to take a break. I want to talk about, actually, if you're worried about spying, it turns out maybe the worst thing you could put in your house is a Google Home Mini. Oh, that was a mistake. It was a mistake. But they fixed it. But we'll talk about that in a second. Jeff Jarvis is here. He's in Berlin. It's great to have him, from the City University of New York, buzzmachine.com. It's funny because Paul and Mary Jo did their show from CUNY today.
I know. Yeah, so it didn't work okay?
Worked great. I said, say hi to Jeff. They said, he's not here. But thank you for helping us get that going. That's great.
Pleasure.
And from all the way from the state of Georgia on the Black Sea. Can you see the Black Sea from your house?
I can see it from my house. Absolutely.
That's nice.
No.
He's in Tbilisi. Mike Elgin of gastronomad.net. He and Amira are planning, another gastronomic adventure, next in Italy, then in France, and who knows? Maybe I'd go to Georgia taste some of that wine that you've been singing the praises of?
We're considering it. I'll bring you a bottle, Leo, and but we're considering doing an event here as well. So you never know.
Boy, yeah, that would be really, so much fun. Our show today brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. Actually, it's by all the Ring things. Ring's mission is to make neighborhoods safer. We've talked about the doorbell before. I have it. Everybody at Twit has it. In fact, it's funny because
I've got it.
Yeah. When somebody comes to anybody's door in the house, one thing, Ring, please make it possible to have differing ringtones, because all of our phones go ding ding ding, and then we all say, "Oh, there's somebody at my door." It's a little confusing. We're all in on Ring. We love our Ring Video Doorbell. It's a great way to see what's going on at your front door wherever you are in the world. You put the camera up, as you mentioned, Mike, last time you were here. Great for an Airbnb if you want to see when your visitors come and go. Somebody rings your doorbell, you can talk to them. They can talk to you. You can say, leave the package there. And now we've got this. This is so cool. This is the Ring Floodlight Cam. And the idea behind the Floodlight Cam is, well, you've all seen the motion-activated floodlights people have on their garages. But the Floodlight Cam adds that special Ring goodness, the camera with the speaker and the microphone and the motion detector. Somebody comes in your backyard, they're brightly lit. You're notified on your phone, even if you're far, far away, and you can see who's there and say, hey, raccoon, get out of my yard, and listen to see what the raccoon says. And if the raccoon doesn't respond, you can even push a button that triggers a 110 decibel alarm, and that'll scare the little fellas right out of your backyard. Ring's stuff is great. It's well made. It's smart. It works with your Amazon Echoes and other devices. It's a great way to hear, see, and speak to visitors at your door or anywhere around your house. When things go bump in the night, you will know what it is. And, you know, for situations like this fire here, the ability to go check your backyard and see if there's anything going on, if the fire's getting close, that is really valuable, too. Here's what you do. Go to ring.com/twig and take a look at the Ring of security kits they've put together. Choose either the original Ring doorbell or the new Ring Pro doorbell, and 1, 2, or 3 of these floodlight cams. Easy to install. Connect them with your favorite locks, your smart locks, your hubs for added convenience, monitoring, and security, and save up to $150 at ring.com/twig. The Wall Street Journal's Best of CES 2017. Ring.com/twig. We thank them for keeping us safe and supporting our show. So Google last week announced, a week ago exactly, a number of new devices, including a new Google Home, 2 new Google Homes, the Google Home Mini and the Google Home Maxi, or Max. It's just Max. They gave everybody at the event, I did not go to the event, and now I'm glad, they gave everybody at the event a Home Mini, including from Android Police, Artem Rusakovsky. Artem set his Ring Mini up and then noticed it seemed to be responding a lot to kind of random noises. So he went online, you know, Google Home has an online interface. You can see all the triggers. So he went to his Google My Activity portal, opened it up, and he says, my jaw dropped. I saw thousands of items, each with a play button and a timestamp, all attributed to this device called the Mushroom. So he was a little nervous. He thought maybe Mushroom is the Mini because he knew that the code name for the Google Home was Pineapple. So he listened to the audio clips, and it was like sounds coming from his living room. Oh, I'm sorry, not his living room. Worse, he put it in his bathroom. So he sent a note to Google thinking, well, hi, please forward this to Google Home team for response. I'm working on a story I'm going to publish the next day or so. I discovered this issue. Would you please confirm the Mini's code name is Mushroom? And here's, you know, my activity page. He says, here's the kicker. Based on Google My Activity, the onslaught of thousands of transmitted and saved assistant-related audio queries started the day the Home Mini was set up. Needless to say, if a listening device records almost every minute of every day and stores it remotely, we're talking about a A huge privacy violation. Does Google have a comment about this? Now this is at, what does he say? 4:22 p.m. He heard from them 10 minutes later. and by 7 p.m., Google was on its way to his house to take the Mini. An engineer drove up to Oakland to examine it that very night. The next day, they say, we've learned of an issue impacting a small number of Google Home Minis, like all the ones we handed out at the press event. Ooh. Ow. That causes the touch mechanism to behave incorrectly. See, apparently, if you, just like your Google Home, if you touch the top of it, instead of saying, okay, Google, you touch the top of it, it'll trigger it. Apparently, they had something wrong with the switch, and it was registering phantom touch events. So the fix, which they pushed out pretty quickly, simply disabled that capability. And it says, he says, the company let me know they're in the process of building a long-term fix. But if you're one of those journalists, no, but actually, you wouldn't have to do anything because they pushed the fix to all of them. But how embarrassing is that?
Wow.
I don't think that was malicious or intentional. They certainly responded very quickly.
But if they hadn't discovered it for like 2 weeks,
ooh,
it would have been like the what was the drive-by Wi-Fi thing that?
Oh
that
yeah,
happened?
they'd be in lawsuits. Yeah.
But
there'd be much
in Google's in Google's defense, it was discovered because Google's so transparent about all the audio recording. They
That's
put
a
it
good
all
point.
online. Anybody can go see it, and that's what they did.
That's a very good point. He was able to go. Yeah. Hey, look who just joined us. Kevin Marks is here, adding to the trio of countries we're visiting this week. Kevin and his poodle are in Yorkshire. Kevin Marks is in Yorkshire. Jeff Jarvis is in Berlin. Mike Elgin is in Tbilisi, Georgia. Wow.
Wow.
And people say
Leo was stuck at home.
People say we're American-centric. Not true, not true.
Well, Leo's been all over the place recently too, haven't you?
I've been traveling, but yeah, I'm unfortunately kind of stuck here to do the shows because I have to anchor it at the home base. But anyway, thank you for joining us, Kevin. It's great to have you. You missed all the fun stuff though, Kaspersky and the Pixel. I mean the Mini. We didn't get a chance to talk to you after the Google event. Are you excited about the Pixel 2 and the Chromebook Pixel and Pixelbook? I guess?
Well, they seem like nice incremental improvements. The Chromebook looks very nice because I've still used the Chromebook Pixel I got 4 years ago. So them doing another one of those is
Jason Howell is also, and he said, "Can I please replace my original Chromebook Pixel with a Pixelbook?" And I said, "Yes, of course." Jeff, though, you'll be interested to know I did cancel my order for the 256 gig one, and I'm ordering the 128 gig one.
Guess what? You inspired me to do the exact same thing.
Yeah. I don't think you need more than that.
So I wait another week. I think you're right.
You don't get more RAM. You don't get a faster processor. You don't get, if you want for instance, the fastest drive storage, you have to go all the way up to the $1,650 version with the i7 and the NVMe drive. I'm not willing to spend that much. So,
no, I'm not either. And I think that because the keyboard is exposed when you use it as a tablet, I can't see just pulling it out of the PATH train and watching a show and risking the keyboard and it being bigger. So it's going to be a desk, leave it at the desk machine, I think. And I'll keep using the tablet, which I'm using right now for reasons I'll explain. And thus, when I travel, I want all my shows and movies and things on the tablet so I can watch that. That's why you'd want extra memory on the device.
Right.
And if I don't travel with it, I don't need that much stuff.
We're so spoiled, though, because really 128 gigabytes, that's a lot of movies, a lot of music, a lot of...
sure is.
I'm not sure I really need all that. I just...
the thing is that I never feel like I need it. But if I think about what frustrates me about my 1 or 2 year old devices, it's always that they don't have enough storage.
Right.
So...
I just ordered the new Amazon Kindle. The first waterproof Kindle. What?
You can take it in the tub now.
You can take it in the tub now. It's weird that the waterproof Kindle is named Oasis. It has 32 gigs. But remember, that's a ton for books.
Yeah. That is a lot of books.
On the other hand, they do now read Audible books. You can play from the Oasis to a Bluetooth speaker. It doesn't have speakers built in, but
Is there any advantage to that, though, as opposed to your phone?
Yes. I'll tell you why. Because if you buy the print book, the Kindle book and the Audible, you can do both. So you could switch back and forth.
So
and when you listen to the Audible, it'll show the text highlighted as the reader reads. And every once in a while, there's a book that I wish I could read it at the same time as I'm listening. Most of the time, it doesn't matter.
Or go back and forth easily, yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes you want, Game of Thrones is a good example. The way they spell those names, you'd never know. and it's not unusual that I'm listening to a book that if you're reading it, and he mentions somebody's name, at the top of the page, by the bottom of the page, if you're listening, you may have forgot. Who are we talking about again? So it's easy enough. If you're looking at a page, you just go, oh, yeah. But if you're listening, that's a big rewind. So it's nice to have.
Especially if you're in the tub, especially if you're
and now I can do it in the tub.
In the hot tub.
By the way, Audible books. Sorry. Mike and I, again, let's apologize to the audience. Mike and I are each on delay, so we don't know when we're interrupting each other. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I go ahead. I'm pretty much done making my crack.
Ruined by me. So I listened to the new John le Carré, and the dramatization of it was spectacular and not over the top, not obnoxious, but just using the voices, one reader, but really doing. They've gotten so much better at this. It's just amazing.
I agree.
By the way, have we talked about the butterfly effect on Audible?
Ron Johnson? Yes, we have. You mentioned it. Yeah, you really like that. Yeah.
That was very good.
Yes. There is a new Le Carré novel. Is it good?
It's very good, I think. Yes, because it goes back to The Spy Who Came from the Cold and digs into it.
This is a legacy of spies?
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay, because I'm a huge fan, but I just thought, wow, I didn't even know he was still alive. I hate to say that.
Amazing. Yeah, it's presumably valedictory, in the sense that it wraps up some things.
If you like this, I am going to recommend also on Audible, and I wish Audible had an ad today. They have taken the complete BBC Radio 4 dramatizations of all the Smiley books and put it on one Audible thing, and it's really, really well done. It's 18 hours and 59 minutes. Call for the Dead, Murder of Quality, Spy Who Came In From the Cold, Looking Glass, War, Tinker Tailor, Soldier Spy, Honorable Schoolboy, Smiley's Peoples, and The Secret Pilgrim, all in one, all dramatized. It's fully dramatized with lots of actors. They say
indeed. Listen to that before you listen to the new novel, because it
sets you
make
up.
That easier.
Yeah, it reminds you of who Smiley is and all that stuff. But I love all that stuff.
When the last veil was removed, George blinked and blushed and understood.
He'd imagined, so he said, fellowships and a life devoted to the literary obscurities of 17th century Germany.
And here he was being offered a job in the British Secret Service.
I love it!
You know what? I think that the new book is better. It doesn't have a bunch of actors. It has only one guy.
I'm going to get it.
I think it's better.
I have 2 credits.
In terms of the production.
It's just added it to my cart. Thank you for the recommendation. And all of this without an Audible ad.
BBC ones, yeah.
I like the BBC.
While we're on,
Did I share you the BBC adaptation of Asimov's Foundation?
No.
They did in the mid 70s. I'll dig that out for you. I'll put that as my.
Make that your pick. Of course, the BBC very famous. People think The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was a novel, or some confused people might think it was a movie, but it was a BBC radio play first. In fact, Douglas Adams was scribbling the lines like minutes before they went on the air and handing it to the actors. And if you can get a copy of the original BBC Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, wow, is that good. So, but I can't wait to hear The Foundation. That would be great. I was about to get the book just to reread it. It's been so long. We were talking about that. It was on this show, wasn't it, Jeff? We were talking about it a couple of weeks ago, how we're headed quickly towards corporate world domination.
Yes.
Corporate
and you know
government.
What? I'll take it. I keep saying
at this point, that's what Google wants you to. Maybe this isn't a Russian plot. This is a Google plot all along. Or Zuckerberg.
So while we're on books, I just want to mention, I want to give a plug. John Green of Hank and John Green. His new novel is just out yesterday. Got a spectacular review in the New York Times. I just bought it. I mean, his books are meant for teenagers, but he has a character who's deep into a deep episode of OCD. John himself is now talking about his own OCD and how this book was basically inspired by a crippling episode of it in 2015. And the interview and the review in the Times were stellar. So we like the Green brothers. And
I will read that too, even though I try to stay away from young adult fiction.
I would normally too, but people say that and especially his are kind of sad, I'm told. But this one sounds like it's an excellent window onto OCD.
Did anybody see Mark Zuckerberg's VR tour of Puerto Rico?
Thank God, no.
Yeah, and I don't actually think that Mark was. I think he made the point that it's very different when you're in the VR. Let's see if can we find it? No, I don't have it here. Oh yeah, here he is. So he was kind of. They were walking around Puerto Rico. He was walking around with a Facebook executive and looking at all the devastation. But remember that Mark is a cartoon character in this. This is using Facebook's Spaces VR app. And
does he see himself that way, or does he only see the background?
He would have seen her. She would have seen him. But that was the point that Zuckerberg's people made. At one point, he says, "Do you want to teleport somewhere else?" "Yeah, maybe back to California," says another executive. Zuckerberg responded in a comment to all the negative comments. One of the most powerful features of VR is empathy. My goal here was to show how VR can raise awareness and help see what's happening in different parts of the world. I also wanted to share the news of our partnership with Red Cross to help with the recovery. Reading some of the comments, I realized this wasn't clear, and I'm sorry to anyone this offended. He came back and actually added some more. He said, when you're in VR yourself, the surroundings feel quite real. But that sense of empathy doesn't extend well to people watching you as a virtual character on a 2D screen. That's something we'll need to work on over time. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's
go ahead, Mike first, and then Jeff.
Mike.
Yeah, sorry. I think that Facebook and Zuckerberg apologize for a lot of things, and they all have a similar theme, which is that there's a lack of understanding about what the public, how they perceive things by Facebook and Zuckerberg. I think this is one of the reasons why he went on his grand tour of the United States. Realizes he doesn't understand people. He doesn't understand why they respond the way they do. He doesn't understand why people do what they do and how they think. Yeah. And so this is yet another example. And I think that hopefully what he's learned, and what all such companies should learn, is that when there is a crisis and people are hurting and suffering, that's not the time to promote anything.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Well said. Good rule.
There is, in general, in Silicon Valley, though, a kind of a bro-related insensitivity. It's why we always say, oh, they ought to have some people of color, some diversity on their boards. They need to understand a little bit better how the rest of the world thinks. They are a little bit in a bubble.
Yes.
All right. Well, we won't beat him up. He apologized. And, you know, Facebook's has gotten very good at apologizing.
I actually have a Google alert that searches for Facebook apologized, Zuckerberg apologized.
Wow.
Okay.
That's probably the best way to find out what they've done wrong lately, right?
Well, I wrote a post last week. We didn't talk about Google, but we mentioned it quickly about the need for the technology companies to establish and learn moral authority. That it's not good enough to say don't be evil. It's not good enough to say we follow the laws. It's not good enough to apologize. Yeah. They have to. They have such tremendous power now. The internet, and thus the future, is in their hands. They have to go beyond what they thought they had to do, and they're being expected. And so I don't want to make them overly cautious, but they just have to have a North Star in front of them at all times, and understand that if they do gain moral authority, that is the platform. Right? We in media thought that our platform was technology, and we found out too late that we'd lost our moral authority. These guys haven't gained their moral authority, and they have to do so.
You mean such as when Walter Cronkite said, you know what, we shouldn't be in Vietnam. That was the weight of America's most trusted voice saying Vietnam is a mistake. That carried huge weight in those days. That kind of moral authority.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, I think that an example of the Russian ads, I don't know when they knew that they had Russian ads, and I don't presume that
they denied it a long time though.
But whenever they should have searched like hell, and B, if they had come out first and said we were manipulated by the Russians, then the story would have been the Russians. Instead, the story is Facebook. And so I want to see them go even further now, where I think they should make all the ads public immediately. Zuckerberg has said that in the future, when you see a political ad in your feed, you can go and see who bought it. That's good. But I think we should all be able to see all political ads. I also think very adamantly that they should reveal targeting data for these ads so that we know who's being targeted. My point here is that Facebook and Google could go far beyond where television is, and certainly where direct mail is, where there's no transparency. They could see that they have the opportunity to set a new moral standard here, rather than merely saying what they say today, which is, we follow the laws of the country we're in. Not good enough.
Google seems to have tried.
I would even go so far.
Go ahead, Mike.
To be suspicious of ads that don't advertise a product or service. I mean, political ads. A lot of the things that Facebook apparently, or the Russians apparently bought, Facebook and elsewhere, they weren't political ads. They weren't political at all. They were just people ranting about this, that, or the other thing, or they were supposedly some sort of nonprofit group that was concerned about some, identity politics or something like that. And all of that stuff, I think, is potentially suspicious in the wake of all these revelations. I think it'd be great to see companies that do especially mobile advertising and social networking advertising to demand that advertisers are selling something, either a product or a service or something identifiable.
You do remember, though, that Facebook, since 2011, has told the Federal Elections Commission that they should not be held responsible in the way that other media is for ad disclosure. They did not want to be held accountable. Since 2011, they've asked the Federal Election Commission for blanket exemptions from political advertising disclosure rules. So that tells me that they kind of knew. And why would they want to be exempt from that?
Okay, so here's why I think, Leo. Here's I'm not justifying, but we never had advertising at this scale before, right? And when blogs came along, suddenly anybody could publish. It opened it up tremendously. It also opened it up to spam and manipulation and worse, right? And trolling and worse. Now, advertising has similarly been democratized, where anybody, Aunt Mary can advertise her jam to the world around. Or Mira Elgin, God knows what she can make and sell the world around, and that opens it up, and that creates whole new businesses and whole new opportunities. But the scale is so difficult to deal with that it's not like you're a TV station with a very finite number of ads or a newspaper with a finite number of ads. This is a virtually infinite number of ads, and so it's not just scale. Bring a cost.
Yeah, it's not just scale. These are dark ads. So let's say I find one person in the world who's terrified of leprechauns. I can serve up ads about how this political candidate or that is going to unleash the leprechauns, and nobody will ever know that was the ad. They're dark ads. Nobody can see them.
The irony is
clowns,
the FEC.
Clowns. The advertisement people don't like clowns. I'll buy into that. I tell you.
The irony, the irony is the FEC did not give Facebook an exemption. So they were required to disclose, but they decided, well, it's the ad buyer's issue, and we're not going to do it. So you can apologize. You could say we should say we did better, but they have not been on the right side of this for some time. There's a lot of money to be made in these ads.
It also has to be said that it's understood in the advertising industry. I read Ad Age and some of the other advertising publications that Facebook is the gold standard for targeting. You can target people better on Facebook than anywhere else, and it's global.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of power.
Were those ads effective? Somebody in the chat room who I think has an axe to grind says, oh, we know they weren't very effective. It's interesting, though, that they were highly targeted at states where there was a very slim margin, and Trump did, in fact, win by a very, very slim margin, 17,000 votes.
You're never going to prove...
you can't prove their effectiveness, yes, but boy, if they're putting the ads in those states, and those are the states that they turn it, it seems to me that those ads, can't prove it was effective, but that there's evidence maybe they were.
The catch-22 for Facebook is that they claim that this is their business model. We are really effective for advertising.
Yeah, and you want to target Wisconsin and Michigan, you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Leprechaun lovers in those areas.
Reach you get.
Yeah. For 100,000. In fact, this is all amazing ad for Facebook. $100,000, and you too can become president. Facebook did not help their case, their moral authority this weekend when Alex Stamos, their chief of security, ranted on Twitter about how nobody understands how hard it is to stop fake news. And I wish the journalists would just, ask us and we could tell them how hard it is. Lots of journalists have celebrated academics who made wild claims about, I think you're probably one of those celebrated academics, by the way, Jeff. Wild claims about how easy it is to spot fake news and propaganda. Was he thinking about you, Jeff Jarvis?
I doubt it.
Does he know you?
So I'm not saying it's easy.
No, I don't think we've ever said it. We know how hard it is. We've had that discussion.
Full disclosure here is I just, whenever this comes up,
you should say it.
I started the News Integrity Initiative, and I got a substantial amount of money from Facebook, Craig Newmark, Ford Foundation, and others to deal with this. And by the way, one of the grants we just gave was to PRI, Public Radio International, where they're doing a really neat project to basically use the same techniques the bad guys used, well, in my view, the bad guys, the Cambridge Analyticas, to find people who are vulnerable not to propaganda, but to journalism.
Vulnerable to journalism? Let's find those people. What is that? That sounds really nefarious.
One of my favorite things. Yeah, one of my favorite things about Alex Stamos's rant is that he says that he encourages reporters to talk to engineers. And I'm thinking, really? So if I contact Facebook PR and say, I'd like to talk to some of your engineers about the
yeah, that'll be yeah. And next I want to call Coca-Cola and talk about their secret recipe. I'd like to know, how do they do that? Hey, good news for our friend Danny Sullivan, who was on this show not so long ago. He has retired, as you know, from search engine land and marketing engine land. He now has a job at Google. Danny Sullivan, I think he's taken basically the Matt Cutts position.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. I thought about that too. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a smart idea.
Yeah. Google needs somebody who can talk and be human to explain search, and that's his new job, to explain search and help bridge the gap, he says. And there was a picture of him.
He has much credibility.
Yeah.
He's not going to spew BS. He'll do it in a way that people can understand. Brilliant move.
We're reaching out, seeing if Google will let him talk to us. He can bridge the gap right here.
He's probably busy going through all those things I speculated about for 10 years. Which ones of those were actually true? Can I see some code?
He posted a picture of him in front of the Nugler statue, which is the Nugler statue is. Tell me, you've stood in front of this too, I think, Kevin Marks, where you stand if you're new to Google, right? Or is a statue to the new ones at Google?
I don't remember the statue. This may be newer than me.
He says, first day at Google in front of the Nugler statue. see the beanie with the propeller? Learned all I know about orientation from the internship. It is slightly different. Slightly different, he says. I love that. Good for you, Danny. Well done. Good luck. He was in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if he's going to move up to Mountain View.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know.
Might have to. I'd move to Mountain View.
There's a Google office in San Diego, but
yeah. By the way, if you want to rob a bank, probably not the best idea to Google how to do it. Now, he robbed the bank, by the way. He went ahead, so that may be how they caught him. But he later told police he searched how to rob a bank on Google to help carry out the robbery. So
YouTube probably would have been better.
Yeah. I imagine that'll come up at the trial. Yeah.
Well, then you get Baby Driver, and he'd be picking the right tune to rob the bank to.
It's a really interesting question.
So what do you find if you search Google for how do you rob a bank?
How to rob a bank. I am not, so now, by the way, I can't rob a bank because this will be used in the trial against me.
You're searching YouTube.
Wow. Look at this. There's actually a lot of YouTube videos. Here's one. The following information is for educational purposes only. Robbing a bank, an amateur's guide.
You will need to gather specialists who know their craft. The mastermind, the driver, the lookout, the
more than 500,000 views.
Inside man. It is important you choose your team members wisely. Supplies and tactical gear. You will need gloves.
This is really irritating.
Well, I think it was smart of him to. What is it? The robotic voice that bugs you?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all sorts of technologies involved. This is crazy. I think this is more how to write a bank heist movie than anything else. Anyway, I doubt that he did all of this. Wow, though. You really truly can learn anything on Google. Now that means, right, I'm going to get, from now on, along with the bikini-clad women in my Google autoplay, I'm going to start having bank robbery videos, right?
Right.
Yeah. They did there were
in Germany. I got it in German.
Did you? There were quite a few bump stock videos and so forth on YouTube, and after the Las Vegas shooting, they have banned many of those modding tutorials from YouTube, but they were there. They were there.
This is an example too of the moral authority question. Is that you can't? It's hard and it's expensive, and I get it, but you can't just set a standard that says when the disaster happens, we'll then backtrack. Now, we don't want them to be in a position to censor the world. We don't want them to be the judges of the world. We don't want them to say what's true and false, but they have to set standards above child porn is bad.
Well, now this is an interesting question. What about where do you stand on Twitter banning tell me what they did. There's a candidate for Congress in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, I've forgotten.
Somewhere down there, right?
Who had a video including something about if elected, I will stop the sale of baby parts. And initially, Twitter decided...
Marsha Blackburn.
Initially, Twitter shut down that video, right?
Yep.
It's back.
Well, I think you could still...
They reversed their decision.
Did they shut down the ad, I think it was?
No,
no?
So Twitter's reversing a decision to block... Oh, she's already a member of Congress, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, for promoting her Senate campaign launch video on the social network. The company said Monday that a line in a video referencing baby body parts was inflammatory, violated its guidelines. I guess they pulled down the tweet referring to it, but then they reinstated. And Blackburn says this is a victory for conservatives in America. It was pleased with the reversal.
I think the reversal was a good idea, and I think the banning was a bad idea.
I agree too.
This is speech that I don't like, but it's not. She's using inflammatory speech to make a political point, and that should be protected.
So the Blackburn campaign said that it was pleased with the reversal. The congresswoman raised money off the decision on Monday, saying that Silicon Valley elites were trying to impose their values. That's not my problem with it. My problem with it is if somebody has an opinion like that, whether you disagree or agree, you need to know that.
What if it is? I agree. But just to play it out a little bit more here, playing the Leo role. What if it is an example of, I hate the phrase, fake news? What if this is a debunked thing
which it is.
So at some point, the world is after them to go after fake news. Now this is by the way, this is Twitter, which doesn't go after horrible stalking and harassment of people, and just says, oh, we'll just turn it off so you don't hear it. So a different standard. But if the world is telling the platforms, get rid of fake news, this is fake news, what do we expect them to do?
It's a really interesting challenge, right?
It is.
Isn't this what we're calling on Facebook and Twitter to do, is stop fake news?
So
it's inflammatory speech. It's based on false information, and in this case, I mean, she is in Congress. I think the clear remedy is more speech. People calling her out, basically going after her with more speech. I don't think. Silent of all the things to censor and silence. This is a bad example of this isn't fake. She's not a fake news organization per se. She's
okay, Mike. So what just to play with it, just to keep going.
Yeah.
Let's say she's not running for Congress. It's not a politician. Let's say it is a edgy news site.
Yeah.
Right. It's Sputnik. Then what do you say?
Well, I mean, in the case of something like Sputnik or RT, which themselves, they have a lot of legitimate information mixed in with the BS. You have to go, consider the purpose of the site. In which case, Sputnik is clearly pro-Russian propaganda, and I wouldn't call for banning that. There's some other publications that would call for banning, some of the Macedonian ones that exist purely to spread fake news and that sort of thing. But in this case, you have lots of politicians saying the president wouldn't last an hour if the rule, if there was a rule against politicians saying things that were untrue. And so, you have to a certain extent, allow occasional. Now, if this politician, I don't know her that well, but if she's, if every day she's coming out with more stuff that's patently false and so on, then that's another issue. But I doubt that that's the case here.
It's it's challenging. And this is, by the way, Alex Stamos is right. This is a hard thing to do, and I don't think we've ever denied that. Facebook has now added an I button to its news feed for more information. This is a test, so not everybody will see it. For links to articles shared on the news feed, we're testing a button people can tap to access additional information without needing to go elsewhere. Contextual information pulled from across Facebook and other sources like the publisher's Wikipedia entry, a button to follow their page, trending articles or related articles about the subject. The idea is to combat fake news by giving people a button they can press. Let's see what the I button looks like. A button they can press to say, well, who is this from? We talked about this a little bit on Sunday, and the consensus seemed to be, well, that's an easy thing to do that nobody will ever click. Look at that. That's the I button. Yeah. You're going to click that button?
Nobody's going to.
And certainly nobody who agrees with the story. Only people who already disagree with it are going to click that button, right? I mean, it's nice to have, well, let me ask Jeff, because Jeff, you're on the forefront of this and ways to solve this. This is one of the things you suggested, more contextual information. Is this what you were talking about?
I think a button is difficult, but I do think that what Facebook has done, that's from the beginning, we talked about this long ago before all this came up, is that when they have the related links, that's the more powerful mechanism. And the related link can be, who's this source? I do think that sourcing in all kinds of ways is important, positive and negative. But you're right. Readers are not going to, nor should they be expected, really, to go do homework on every link. But before you share it,
people don't even read the article before they share it. We know they share it based on the headline.
Can we change the norms? We're early into this system. If it's the same as I've argued about trolling, if the troll needs their meds and they got problems, but the person who gives attention to the troll is the person we have to reach out to. Similarly, yeah, people share crap. But at some point, should you be embarrassed that you did? It was wrong, and you did it.
Not if you had an axe to grind.
Then that's different, right? But at least we can get rid of some of this by saying, did you know that came from blank? It's the same. I see people embarrassed all the times when they spread something and somebody says, oh, they died 5 years ago. What are you doing that again? Or that's on Snopes and here it is. people of sense get embarrassed by this.
I don't know if Neil deGrasse Tyson ever said this, but if he didn't, he ought to. The internet landed in our laps without creating a curriculum that empowers you to know when someone online is full of shit. I don't know if he said that, but boy, that's a good
yeah,
that sounds like
it's a good point.
we haven't been taught how to do this. I mean, having an I button's great, but that doesn't teach people to push it.
Yeah, but I also argue that.
Go ahead. Let Mike talk for a second.
Yeah, I just the companies like Google and Facebook. Their proposition to us all is that their algorithms are amazing, that they're able to do all these wonderful things, and there's got to be a way that a combination of downvoting things, as you see on Reddit, and
that's true,
upvoting sources, like if lots and lots of people are constantly saying this is a legitimate thing, there's got to be a way to understand to link the behavior of the individual to their activity. And we're not talking about whether something can be posted. We're talking about whether something can be made viral, given the jet engine of viral distribution that Facebook is capable of giving different types of news stories. If somebody posts it and 2 or 3 people see it or whatever, nobody cares about that. It's like they should be very careful about which news stories, which videos and so on go wildly viral on the site. That's really the key thing, and they're not really addressing the positive side of it. What if they said, okay, look, if it's a story, a news-related story, if it's current events or something like that, we're going to be super, super careful. Most of the stuff we're not going to allow to go crazy viral, but we're going to cherry pick sources. We're going to use the community behavior and our algorithms to identify the really good sources of information. We're going to let only those go crazy viral. Nobody's talking about that. They're just talking about whack-a-mole with the fake news. But why does everything that gets a lot of likes automatically have to go crazy viral? Well,
that's kind of the definition of viral, isn't it? I mean,
newsfeed anyway.
The point is that is the feedback loop that works. In some ways, Twitter has tried to do the opposite thing and say, yes, there are these verified people and you can trust them. And that misses the point that a lot of the things that take off are started by someone who you wouldn't think had any influence, but somehow they've expressed something in a way that's pithy enough that other people retweet it and it will spread and jump from just them talking to their friends to them talking to the world in an hour or so. And that is the challenge of this, because those things can be great. They can also be false. They're often funny, but also they can be devastating for the person who started them, because suddenly there are 100,000 people trying to argue with them about it or take them on, and they don't have the facilities to deal with that.
Getting Amazon to buy you may not be a bad idea, but I don't think going on Twitter to beg is the best way to go about it. Carl's Jr., I wonder, maybe this is just a marketing campaign. Carl's Jr. is now begging, using the hashtag Amazon Buy Us. Hey, Amazon, for the next 24 hours, we'll be sharing one of our big ideas every hour on the hour, trying to get... No joke. You like shipping boxes? We like filling them with food. Our logo smiles. Your logo smiles. Perfect fit. Hey, Amazon. This is from the official blue check-marked Carl's Jr. Twitter feed. Amazon, buy us. Seriously, for real. Let's do this. Let's change the future of eating. Hashtag Amazon, buy us. They actually admitted, Jeff Jenkins, the chief marketing officer at Carl's and its sister Hardee's, told USA Today, the tweets are obviously a start to try and see where the dialogue goes. If I'm Jeff Bezos, you never...
I can hear his laugh here.
You never go out with a girl that begs you. That's just not... it's just not a good way to get Amazon's attention. On the other hand, if you're a teenager, you may now be able to buy things on Amazon with your own account, as long as your parents say okay. Amazon, which I didn't know this, had apparently blocked kids 13 to 17 from buying things on Amazon. They'll now be able to use an Amazon household account to shop the marketplace. Parents will be notified of each purchase via text or email They will, by default, have the chance to approve or deny it, and they can set spending limits. But speaking of begging, as they make the purchase, teens will be able to include a note that explains or begs why they need the particular item. The parent will either say Y or N. This already goes on in our house, but it usually is...
put the parents in a terrible position.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because we've got a shared Prime account as well. But mostly what that means is when anyone buys anything, it just shows up in each other's targeted ads. Which is
that's really bad. Yeah, that's a good argument for getting a separate account. Jeez Louise.
So my son buys a video game, it shows up in my targeted ads for a day. And it's like, what?
Another that's just Amazon's poor recommendation engine, by the way. Let's see what else. The Oculus event was today, and Oculus Connect's 4th annual get-together in San Jose. They announced a standalone $199 VR headset called the Oculus Go. That's really a lot like the Google Daydream or the Gear VR. It doesn't need a PC, but it doesn't need a phone either. It doesn't need wires. I can't imagine how this would even work.
You ordered one yet?
No, I'm not. You know what? I'm over VR. I really am.
Isn't it funny, Leo, that Oculus was second now, and we're all still kind of waiting for the real VR.
Oh, you're dropping every third word now, Michael. I can't really understand. Try one more time.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I remember a couple of years ago when Oculus was the future, VR was the future. We were all the whole thing was about to just break into the world, change everything. But since then, augmented reality, mixed reality, et cetera, 360 video is clearly going to be so much bigger impact and wider views and so on. I do, absolutely.
Or are we is this just the next?
This is another one that we're saying,
the next big thing that won't go anywhere. This is another confirming story. Nokia made, remember, a $30,000 camera. We actually taped an episode of one of our shows with this, the Ozo. Was it Twig or Twit? The virtual reality camera. They're killing it. And 310 people are losing their jobs due to slower than expected development of the VR market. And the fact that it cost $30,000 didn't hurt. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say $60,000, although they did reduce the price to $45,000. So Alex Lindsay, I think, bought several of these. Wow. You got to be careful in this business. You can easily get sucked in by something that seems really, you're right that augmented reality has a lot of promise. But remember, wasn't the Apple event going to be the big thing, Mike? That Scoble told me it's going to be the breakthrough for AR. It's going. Oh my God! And notice how AR is just taken off ever since Apple's iPhone 8. Not.
Well, I think what's going to happen is it's kind of like when the App Store first hit for the iPhone. The first few months was like, this is kind of cool. There's this, that, and the other thing. But I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see more and more phone apps and tablet apps have augmented reality that's practical. Things like you can use a measuring tape to measure a cabinet using your phone. Well, that's kind of amazing. And, it'll be sort of stepwise. I do believe that, I think...
We may never know what he believes.
Well, isn't the augmented
coming soon?
Hold on a second. Let me get Mike to say whatever it is he believes. One more time, we can edit out the gap.
I do think that augmented reality is going to make a huge impact. Not this year, not next year. It's coming. By the time we're, completely think it's mundane, it'll definitely be here changing the world.
Kevin, you've been through this, technology that were going to change the world and didn't, and some that did. What do you think?
I think it's coming in via photography. I mean, Snapchat is actually the biggest AR company because they do all this weird face modification stuff that people create and post, and that's true. Warped reality. If you think about doing that, and if you look at the way that it's moving into the cameras with both the Apple's face scanner and Google's applying AI to do photo processing, things like that. We're starting to see it happen in that space. So that's where I think it'll end up showing up in those practical spaces first, rather than requiring us to strap things to our faces again, which is a big ask. That's the piece that's been difficult about this. And Zuckerberg turned himself into a cartoon and going up to his waist in virtual water. Well, real water, but virtual him is not helping any of this at all.
Real water, but virtual him. This is actually here's the first AR app on the iPhone. And by the way, it's also available on Android that I actually kind of liked. And Megan Maroney showed me this yesterday on iOS Today. It's from a company called Viewphoria. It's called Chalk. And you have the app on your phone. You can be on your Android phone, and you point it at something. Let's say you're at an Airbnb, Mike, and they've got a remote control. You don't know how to get the TV working, so you call them up. They have the Chalk app. You have the Chalk app, and you say, "Let me show you this remote control. What buttons should I push?" And then they can actually use their finger or pen. Let's see if it shows it here on this video. To circle the buttons, to point to the buttons. You're pointing your camera at the thing they need to do, the thing you want to understand, and they're drawing on it to show you how to use it. That, I think, is really interesting.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a crowdsourced.
For grandparents, if you could teach the grandparents how to use chalk, you need the chalk to teach them to use chalk.
It's the funny that you should say that, because that was on our episode of apps for your parents, for your elders, how to show them how to do stuff. And I think that's kind of interesting. It's on it's chalk.viewphoria, VUFORIA.com, and it's Android or iOS. So that was after I've tried all the apps on iPhone 8. That's the first one I've seen that I thought, oh, that might be useful. Not wildly useful, but that might have some value. I think the best thing you can say about AR is it doesn't make you nauseous.
Well, as nauseous.
Or as nauseous. Oh, great.
I mean, if it's got lag, it makes you pretty nauseous, because you're trying to see the real world. It's not quite on.
Good AR. Let's see. Ev Williams is back reinventing journalism. Let's try this one more time. He says anybody who writes on Medium now will be able to put their articles behind a paywall. Jeff Jarvis, I don't know, you like Medium, but I think you've had mixed feelings about this new.
I haven't. I'm on Medium to get more social coverage, not less. I know I'm not going to make any money with my blatherings, and I'm frustrated that I can't read some of the stuff that I want to read. I mean, I love you. I love Ev. I think the world of him, and he's changed the world twice, and I'm never going to bet against him, but I don't think we're there yet.
So far, since the company expanded its partner program to the end of August, 83% of the participants who published at least one members-only story earned money, 83%. The average amount earned $93.65. Doesn't sound like riches, but it's better than nothing. The most
probably better than a Google ad.
Yeah, most any single author received in September was $2,279.12. Now that's decent money. Not everyone.
It's not much for a professional journalist, is it?
No. Right.
What they don't tell you, Leo, is what percentage of the world's population they hid that article from, because people in certain countries or certain economies are not going to spend money on journalism.
That's of course Jeff's point, which is he'd rather get people seeing it than paying for it, and that's what we do here. We give this away.
Let's support advertising and figure out how to make advertising work. Let's not figure out how to make these little elite bubbles even worse.
Yeah.
Well, I go a slightly different direction with that. I'd say find a way to get people to pay for things that doesn't require putting it behind a wall. That's the piece that's, the payment part is interesting, but the wall part is boring and counterproductive. My dog has just pulled my headphones out.
Oh, poodles! Yeah. What are you going to do? What can you do with a poodle? Let's take a break while Kevin Marks puts his headphones back in, and we're going to get your picks of the week, gentlemen, when we come back, or your number, or whatever it is, whatever final thoughts you have. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. If you are buying a new home or you're refinancing your home, you're about to enter into the Twilight Zone, submitted for your approval. A normal couple trying to buy a new home, trapped by the bank for months. That was me and Lisa 4 years ago when we tried to buy our house, the house we're living in now. We went to the big bank, the #1 lender in the country. You know the bank. And we figured we're going on vacation in a couple of, I think it was 4 weeks. This will be over by then. No. No. They wanted more materials. We had to fax some stuff. We had to fax some stuff from the vacation. Lisa had to call her sister, said, Debbie, can you please fax them some stuff? They need more. It took more than a month to get a home loan. That was, my friends, 2013. Today, in 2017, we have a better way. We have Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. First of all, that's the #2 lender in the country. All right, I admit it, #2 in size, but #1 in your hearts, #1 in the J.D. Power Customer Satisfaction Award year after year after year after year for 7 consecutive years. And they'll get it again this year, I guarantee you, both for primary mortgage origination and mortgage servicing. Rocket Mortgage is a creation of Quicken Loans. They said, we got to bring this loan process into the 21st century. What if you could do it all online? What if you could do it not in months or weeks or days or even hours, but in minutes without going into the attic to find your pay stubs or your bank statements? This is Rocket Mortgage. You go online, you do it on your phone, you do it on your tablet, your computer. You could do it at an open house because it's so fast. You fill in a few simple questions. Because of their trusted partnerships with all the financial institutions, Rocket Mortgage can get the information they need to crunch the numbers with your permission. Once they do that, based on your income, assets, and credit, literally in minutes, they will analyze all the home loan options for which you qualify and make you an offer. Find the one that's just right for you. You choose the term, you choose the rate, you choose the down payment, you get the loan minutes later. Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Whether you're refinancing, and now's a very good time to do it, by the way, or buying a new home, apply simply, understand fully, and mortgage confidently with Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. RocketMortgage.com/twig. You're probably not buying a home this very, very minute, but if you're thinking about it or maybe you're shopping around, please bookmark that URL so you can use it when the time comes. RocketMortgage.com/twig. The #1 tip I would give anybody who's looking to buy a house is get it pre-approved for a loan. It puts you in front of the line. You know, it's a competitive thing these days, buying a house. Get in front of the line. RocketMortgage.com/twig. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. Bookmark it. RocketMortgage.com/twig, and we thank them so much for their support. Kevin Marks, I feel bad. We hardly had much from you today. We got to you late, but I'm glad I'm always welcome. And I know it's like the middle of the night, so thank you for staying up late with your poodle.
Well, the poodles are waiting to be fed as well, so they're
dear,
they're extra grumpy with me at the moment.
Oh dear. Well, what do you have? Anything to plug with the open web? Anything you'd like to let us know about?
Well, the usual thing is to go to indieweb.org and see what the upcoming indie web camps and homebrew website clubs are. There's a few of those there.
We like to promote that. I'm a big favor of the open web. Big fan.
Well, people are starting to think about this again. It's interesting to see people start to say, well, what if we had something that wasn't Facebook? So it's like, yep, well, we're here waiting for you when you want to think about that.
When you're ready for an open web. But you said you were going to give us that foundation pick, and I do want that.
So the foundation link, it's the best place to get it is on the Internet Archive. If you search that for BBC Foundation, or I made a short link, j.mp/BBC found, and it's an 8-part adaptation of the whole trilogy. So it's a little bit compressed, each 8-hour-long episodes. And this was made in 1973. And it's a reasonably faithful adaptation. It gets most of the original stuff through. They cut a few bits here and there, but it's also got a great classic radiophonic workshop soundtrack from the Delia Derbyshire area. So it has that sort of retro futuristic thing that you get from 1970s BBC. So I listened to it sometime last year, and it's a fun listen. The BBC does an amazing amount of drama. There's actually a BBC Drama of the Week podcast that I recommend. That's worth subscribing to because it'll give you something to listen to at regular intervals as well. And they produce probably a radio play every day. There's stuff in there. They've also done great adaptations recently of a couple of Neil Gaiman novels that are up there, and so there's a bunch of really good stuff in the BBC's archives, and they sort of getting the hang of the podcast thing there. So then my broader recommendation is go to the BBC and look for podcasts there, because you'll find something good.
You know, it's just reminded me, as long as you're talking about this, RTE, which is I guess it's the Irish radio.
Yes, it's the Irish BBC, effectively.
Irish BBC.
Radio Telefís Éireann. Yeah.
Has a phenomenal reading of James Joyce Ulysses that is widely agreed. I was looking for...
Jesus.
Now, calm down. It's okay. How
long does that go?
Oh, it's pretty long. I was looking for a good version of Ulysses, and Audible literally has 4 or 5 various readings and so forth. And I searched around, and widely agreed that the RTE's version is the best, and there happens to be a copy of it on Internet Archive. That's what reminded me of this. And actually, there's 2 versions. You're going to want to get the little bit higher resolution VBR MP3 version of it, but it's dramatized. It's quite good, I have to say. And I've been listening to it. It's not, it is a hard book, but in some ways it's easier to listen to it, especially if it's acted out. It kind of comes alive. And who better to act it out than RTE? So as long as you're on the Internet Archive and you're looking, and you can also buy this on CDs directly from RTE. It was recorded in 1982 to celebrate the centenary of James Joyce, and it's a full dramatized production. I think it's unabridged. I think it's everything. It's very long. So basically they read the text, but then they had actors do all the voices and so forth. Pretty good. Pretty good, as they say.
You know what you've been watching.
Yes. What do you think of it, by the way? I'm not sure I like it.
I always like it.
Yeah, he's great. We're talking about Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah. So archive.org has the 1973 BBC Foundation trilogy, but you can also go to bbc.co.uk/podcast and subscribe to the Drama of the Week. Which BBC channel is that on?
That's Channel 4.
Channel 4? Okay.
There's a series of BBC Radio 4. There's also separate Radio 3 dramas as well, which tends to be slightly more classical. Radio 3 is the classical stuff, so they will do adaptations, whereas the BBC Drama of the Week is usually original drama.
Okay. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm all confused which is which. Some are music, some are spoken word. BBC 4 is the one that has all this.
Radio 4 is spoken word. Okay. Radio 3 is mostly classical music, and 1 and 2 are 2 is easy listening and 1 is pop.
Yeah, I don't listen to that.
Yeah.
What's nice though, this is through the iPlayer, and what's nice is even though I'm in the U.S., I am able to listen to it, so they don't have the geographic restrictions that they do on the video stuff on the iPlayer.
There's a mixture there. There is a BBC Radio iPlayer app that has quite a lot of stuff. The challenge is that a lot of the iPlayer rules are available for 1 week only, so you actually have to listen to it that week. Whereas some of the podcasts have deeper archives. There's one of the best is BBC In Our Time, which they basically do live a 45-minute seminar on something every week, and there's about 400 of those up that you can listen to. So if you want to learn all about James Joyce or something that they've covered, something historical, it's like history, science, art, culture, you basically get a 45-minute seminar led by Melvin Bragg with 3 academics explaining it, and they've spent a week getting it down to 45 minutes. They do it live, and they put the podcast up.
Nice.
And that's another one of these things that it's nice to have in your podcast feed, because once a week you get a brain dump on something, and it's usually interesting, and it's usually very well produced.
It's not the Complete Foundation trilogy, is it? Yes,
it is. This is a trilogy.
Oh wow.
They do it in 8 hours, which is quite tight for the trilogy. I think the audiobook is quite a bit longer. But
Oh yeah. So it's abridged.
It's a little abridged, yeah. But it's
sounds like a great listen.
The points.
And by the way, archive.org has so much great stuff on there. What a great site! I mean, you can use HyperCard on a Macintosh.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Another archive.org thing this week is they've just found that it's legal to post books that were out of print in the US that are out of print that were published between 1923 and 1941 if you're a library, which they claim they are. So they're busy digitizing every book published in the US between 1923 and 1941 that is not in print anymore.
Wow.
That's this week's task, which is going to that's an interesting slice of time.
And I just noticed this ad on Facebook. They also have a very large collection of Russian audiobooks, just in case you would like to brush up your Russian. In case
you need that. Yeah.
You might. Useful.
In case you don't get enough Russian content on Facebook.
Jeff Jarvis, your number of the week.
So I like this one. I can look over here. So Google, a couple researchers, Feng Lui, Yong Shi, and Ying Lu, according to Boing Boing, tested the IQs of the various AI systems. Google came out on top with an IQ of 47.28, doubling Siri, take that fanboys, which had 23.94.
Yeah, but Jeff, 47's not very bright either. I mean...
Oh, it's not. But
it's an actual moron. It's an actual moron. Okay. Yes. But it's the best of the bunch. Yeah.
That is.
Bing is only 31.98. How do you test an IQ of an artificial intelligence?
I didn't have a chance to look at the whole paper and figure out the methodology.
What an interesting idea. What an interesting idea. So Google's AI, Google Assistant has a 47.25 IQ.
I mean, you obviously, if you take the IQ test, you could program it to, as Donald Trump evidently said, get 100. But
no, he didn't say get 100, did he? He said I had a perfect score. I had a perfect score on my IQ test. Mike Elgin, pick of the week.
Yes. So I, unlike a lot of my fellow tech journalists, was not particularly impressed by Google Pixel Buds.
Really? See, I would think in Georgia they'd be so useful.
Well, you know, I'm not impressed by the translation feature in particular. People are saying, oh, with the Pixel Buds, it translates languages.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Google Translate translates languages, and it's brilliant. I recommend that everybody use Google Translate. What the Pixel Buds actually do, if you have a Pixel, is they'll take the sound of the translation that's incoming to you and put it in the earbuds.
So they're not doing any work. I understand. Yeah.
It's not that impressive. And let's face it, folks, you're not going to use that feature. You're not. Even I'm not going to use that feature. And I'm always living in countries where people speak a foreign language. As earbuds, they're dramatically inferior to AirPods, Apple's AirPods, which I think are one of the best Apple products since the iPad. They're phenomenal. I love them. And you can use them with an Android phone. But here's the problem. The way they work on an iPhone when you use AirPods is you double tap and you get Siri. Okay, Siri is obviously, as we just learned, super dumb. You don't want to use Siri. You want to use Google Assistant, right? So there is an application. There's an app for Android on the Play Store called AirPods for GA.
Oh.
And it's a free app. You download it, and when once you have this and you're using AirPods with an Android phone, you double tap on the AirPods and you get Google Assistant.
Oh. So that's interesting, because remember Nilay Patel was saying that really the Pixel Buds and the AirPods and the lack of a headphone jack is really about creating kind of walls between these different platforms, so that
That's still true.
Yeah.
That's true in terms of the optimization. So AirPods are not optimized for Android. You can use them. They're great. The AirPods as a hardware product are super slick. The batteries and all that stuff is fantastic. They're not optimized. You can use them. It's not quite as good of an experience as on the iPhone, but it's probably better than Google Pixel Buds, I'm guessing, in general. And again, double tapping for the Google Assistant is a pretty key feature, I think.
All right. Nice picks. I'm going to tell you a couple of things coming up, because I don't want you to miss them. Friday, on Triangulation. Triangulation has moved to a new time, 3 p.m. Fridays, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC. And I know many of you are fans of the Expanse series on Sci-Fi, on the Sci-Fi Network. Daniel Abraham will be joining us. Is that right, Karsten? This Friday with Father Robert Ballecer. He'll be interviewing Daniel Abraham, the author of The Expanse, on Friday. That's a big one. That is one you do not want to miss. But we have some really exciting triangulations coming up. The following week, on October 20th, I'll be interviewing Philippe Kahn, who is absolutely legendary in this business. I know Mike Elgin, you probably know Philippe, not only for his great saxophone work, he's a sailor, but he started a little thing called Borland, which transformed the computer industry back in the 90s. And I don't know if people know this widely, but without Philippe Kahn, I don't know if we would have camera phones. He originated the technology, patented it, and I think still reaps the rewards of inventing technology that was vital to the camera phone. So that'll be very exciting. Wow. The following week, we're going to talk about a new technology, gallium nitride technology, that's going to make a massive difference in technology, in computing, in processors, but right now in amplifiers and FinFETs. And then Scott Galloway, we've been talking about Scott Galloway's article. He has a new book called The Hidden DNA of Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google. He wrote the article that said that you talked a lot about, Mike, actually. You wrote about it, that said that Silicon Valley is losing the faith, and it's basically losing its reputation in the rest of the world. And he was the guy who said it's just a matter of time before governments really start cracking down on Google and Amazon. Jason Howell will be interviewing him on November 3rd. So we have some really big...
Good bunch.
Yeah, well, and let's not forget Andy Weir coming up November 17th, the author of The Martian. He's got a brand new book. We'll talk about that. So make sure you tune in Triangulation at its new time. Almost every week in the next few weeks is just huge. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 2200 UTC on its new time Fridays. I wanted to give it a bit of a plug. And I want to thank you all for being here. Kevin Marks, staying up late in Yorkshire. Thank you, sir. IndieWeb.org. Always a pleasure. Nice to have you here today. From Berlin.
Great to be here again. Sorry I was late.
No, that's fine. I'm just sorry we didn't have more for you to talk about today. Jeff Jarvis joining us all the way from Berlin, where it's equally late. We're going to let him... Are you staying in an Airbnb? That's not a hotel, is it?
It is a hotel, but it's pretty tacky behind me. I now see, yes, but
that wallpaper.
The conference. The hotel is actually nice. The conference and the Wi-Fi is good. The conference, I forgot to make my hotel reservation, so I used hotels tonight and got something fast.
It's
and I got better off.
Very Gemütlichkeit or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's a little tacky.
I like it. No, I like it. I'm not. And then all the way from Tbilisi, Georgia, on the Black Sea, amazing. Mike Elgin. We had a great international panel today. Mike is, of course, planning his next food assault at gastronomad.net. They had a great success in Barcelona. Next, it's the south of France. I'm sorry, Italy, then the south of France. And who knows where's next. It's great to see you again, Mike.
That's right.
Oh, we just
found out that the best restaurant in the world is just around the corner from us here, according to
not Michelin.
TripAdvisor.
Oh, TripAdvisor. What is the best restaurant in the world?
What is the best restaurant in the world?
It is the Black Swan at Oldfield.
Now, wait a minute. That sounds like there's some shenanigans going on.
Yeah. Looking it up now.
No.
Is it that good?
No, it's basically I've not actually been there, but it's run by this sort of nice, unassuming guy who does very good local food and has won a place on like Top Chef competitions in the UK, like a real one, not one of the fake ones. And so I imagine this is the kind of place you go to think this is actually really amazing because it is in the middle of nowhere and you don't expect it there. But it's basically got the top ranked one on TripAdvisor worldwide.
Wow.
It says Oldstead.
Oldstead, yeah.
Oldstead, yes.
Okay, I'm on my way. And you get to go see
So that.
Ooh, look at that. That's even nicer than your hotel room.
Oh yeah, and you can stay the night too. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
It's kind of booked now. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it is. Best restaurant in the world. Thank you all for joining us. We do This Week in Google every Wednesday, 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern, 20:30 UTC. I hope you'll stop by and say hi. Do it live. That way you can go to the chat room at irc.twit.tv. But if, you got things to do, and I understand, you can always get it on demand. Just go to twit.tv, twit.tv/twig, and you can download episodes. You can subscribe there too. Listen every week in your favorite podcatcher like Pocket Casts or Overcast or iTunes, whatever you like to listen to. We don't want to miss you, so please come by each and every week. Subscribe. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time, whether it be Tbilisi or Oldstead, on This Week in Google. Bye-bye.